A lot of men are afraid to get married because of a popular statistic that claims that 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Men are afraid that with such a high divorce rate, they're essentially gambling decades of their lives and half their assets on what is basically a coin flip. But should men actually be worried about the 50% divorce rate? No, men should not be worried about the 50% divorce rate because you do not have a 50% chance of getting divorced. You see, the 50% divorce statistic has many problems, but the biggest problem of all is the fact that it's a general statistic. It includes everyone from every income level, every education level, every race, abusive people, ignorant people, financially illiterate people, my friend Brian, everyone. But because you are not some random person, at least not from your perspective, the divorce rate statistic can't meaningfully be applied to you. If there was a statistic about divorce among people with your level of education, your race, your political leaning, who live in your city, and so on, then maybe you could use that statistic. But because the divorce rate statistic is a general statistic, it's completely fucking useless and has practically zero predictive value from an informed perspective. And to go even further, if I assume that you're a mature and responsible adult, then the divorce rate is even more useless because it is profoundly skewed by those who are incompetent and irresponsible, by all of the men who are abusive and manipulative, by all of the men who are weak and incompetent. The divorce rate is skewed massively by men who are incompetent and irresponsible, in which if you are neither incompetent nor irresponsible, then the average divorce rate should mean absolutely nothing to you. And to further concretize this, think about this. If someone told you that the odds of causing a car crash are 10%, but most car crashes are caused by people who are either drunk, high, or sleepy, and you don't drink, do drugs, or drive while sleepy, then the odds of you causing a car crash are not 10%. And in that same vein, if most divorces are caused by people who are incompetent, drink alcohol, do drugs, have anger problems, are financially illiterate, are abusive, and so on, and you are none of those, then you do not have a 50% chance of getting divorced. And to go even further once again, you can control your chances of getting a divorce. And yes, you heard that right. You can control your chances of getting a divorce. You see, the odds of you getting a divorce are not random. It's not as if you get married and there's some mystical dice that are rolled that determine whether or not you will eventually get a divorce. The odds of you getting divorced largely depend on your conscious actions. The odds of you getting divorced depends on what type of person you decide to be, what type of woman you decide to marry, and what level of effort you decide to give to your marriage, in which you can choose to have a high chance of getting divorced by choosing to be a bad man, a man who is uneducated, abusive, and financially incompetent, and by choosing to be a man who gives zero effort to his marriage, and by choosing to be with a woman who is angry, disrespectful, and lazy, and who has different goals and values than you. Or you can choose to have a low chance of getting divorced by choosing to be a good man, a man who is educated, hardworking, and moral, and by choosing to give constant effort to your marriage, and by marrying a woman who is kind, patient, and intelligent, and by choosing to be with a woman who has the same goals and values as you. Your chances of getting a divorce are not based on random chance, but the conscious choices you make in regards to who you decide to be, who you decide to be with, and what level of effort you consciously decide to give to your marriage. And for a non-marriage example of this idea, this is no different than the odds of being robbed, in that your odds of being robbed largely depend on your conscious choices. You can choose to have a high chance of being robbed by going out after dark, alone, with flashy jewelry, and in a dangerous neighborhood, or you can choose to have a low chance of being robbed by never going out after dark, never being outside alone, never wearing flashy jewelry, and never walking through dangerous neighborhoods. Ultimately, your chances of divorce are not 50% and are up to you and your conscious decisions. You can choose to be a bad man who marries a bad woman, and who doesn't take his marriage seriously and suffer a high chance of getting divorced. Or you can choose to be a good man who marries a good woman and takes his marriage seriously and enjoy an extremely low chance of getting divorced.